and welcome to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. I am your host, Sandy Lowries, and the Good Girl Confessional podcast is, of course, proudly brought to us by WB40 or Women Beyond 40 magazine. Today in the confessional, I am super excited to be chatting with the most extraordinary human. Her name is Libby Moore. Libby is a certified life coach. And she has created something called Love X, which is really about bringing more love back into the workplace, especially the corporate world, and to help people rediscover themselves and love themselves a little bit more. But Libby has had an extraordinary career that has led her on this path and to this journey. She has worked for Rolling Stone magazine, and for 11 years she was the chief of staff for Oprah Winfrey. She has met some of the most amazing thought leaders through her incredible career. And today she chats with us with such raw honesty and authenticity. I know you're going to love this. You will not want to miss a minute of it. Please welcome to the confessional, Libby Moore. Hello and welcome to the confessional, Libby Moore. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on. This is very exciting to be in Australia right now as I'm sitting in Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah, and this is probably one of the great things about modern technology is that even though we're both halfway around the world from each other, but we're sitting together in this moment, which is kind of a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, I can feel that. Thank you.
I'm so thrilled to have you on here, and I will give a quick shout out to Jules Brooke, who's a lovely human being who actually introduced us, and I'm so grateful that she did. So
me too. Whoop, whoop. Thank you, Jules.
Thanks, Jules. I first of all love everything about what you are doing, and our listeners may not be aware yet, but once they hear your story, I know that they will be so connected with you. One of the most beautiful things about you as a life coach is that you want to bring more love into the workplace and bring love back basically to people in the workspace. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So I think it was around, maybe 2017, 2018. And I was living in New York City, and I was doing my morning meditation, and I started asking the question, how do you coach a company as if it's an individual? And the answer that came back to me was surprising, and the answer was, you teach people how to love themselves. So I was expecting something different. I don't know what I was expecting, but I didn't expect that. And I really continued to ask that question every morning. How do you coach a company as if it's an individual, and you teach people how to love themselves? And it made a lot of sense to me. And I understood also in that moment, almost like a quick download that you get, that if everybody in a company actually loves themselves, and a lot of people say, well, what does that mean? It sounds egotistical. It's not egotistical at all. It's about self-respect, self-honoring, self-compassion, being aware of our thoughts and how our thoughts toward ourselves and others affects ourselves and others. That's all self-love. So if we're all practicing that on an individual basis, the entire company can transform from the inside out through the individual transformation of each employee. So that's where, and what popped into my head soon after that was Love X. Almost like the FedEx logo, that block lettering with a big X right on the end of love. And what that represented to me was the exponential component. It's limitless what you can do the more people you have in this self-loving experiment. So that's where it came from. Love X is bringing the energy of love back into business. And to take that even further, it's bringing it back into your home, back into your relationship, to your family, your community, your world.
And that's so poignant at the moment when we're living in this kind of time of uncertainty and, unprecedented pivoting, really. And I know these are all like when I say the word pivot, but so many people have had to really rethink the way that they work, how they work, what sort of work that they do, and to find compassion in the world when there's a lot of fear as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And in really basic, simple terms, when you do a deep breath, slow exhale, which we did right before this interview began, this conversation, to do 3 deep breaths, slow exhales, gets you out of your head and into alignment with your higher self. And your higher self is love. So throughout the day, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life, we're coming to all these little forks in the road, and it's that micro moment to choose love over fear, which we've all heard about. So in that moment, are you going to default to fear, or are you going to choose the path of love, which will give you a much different moment, day, life, on and on and on.
I love that so much. I really do. You have had the most extraordinary career and life journey that brought you to this wonderful space with LoveX. And if it's okay with you, I'd really love to explore that as well. So you, first of all, we'll go back. So you actually worked for a major publisher who was publishing things that everyone will know, like Rolling Stone. How was that experience for you, and what brought you to that?
Yes, so I was the second executive assistant. I was the second assistant to Jann Wenner, who's the founder and publisher of Rolling Stone magazine. And how I got to that job, through a friend, actually. I mean, prior to that, I was Maury Povich's personal assistant. He's a U.S. talk show host that's still on the air today. And I was with him for 3 years, and then I left that job and decided to give comedy a try, because I really moved to New York City because I wanted to be in comedy. I wanted to write for Saturday Night Live. That never happened. And I did odd jobs for 2 years while I was in a little sketch comedy group in the West Village in New York City. And then a friend of mine said, hey, I heard Jann Wenner's looking for an second assistant. So I went in, interviewed, got that job, and stayed for 4 years. And that was incredible. And in hindsight, it was the training that I needed to then get the job with Oprah as her chief of staff executive assistant. So the year that I got the job with Oprah, which was December 2000, she had just launched her magazine, O Magazine, on my birthday, April 17th, 2000, on my 34th birthday. I believe in signs too, in synchronicities. So that had given me all the knowledge I needed to know about magazine publishing, or at least a baseline of it, to understand more about her magazine and to help her navigate those waters.
And this is a beautiful way to lead into that. So you worked with Oprah Winfrey, who, you know, herself is such an extraordinary human. For 11 years, you were her chief of staff. I know this story because we have chatted previously, but I would love you to tell everybody else how that came about and what it was like when you first met Oprah.
Well, the super short version, which most people I think would say would be, an executive recruiter in Chicago found me in in New York. And that's how I got that job. So that's how a lot of people would answer that question. But I like going into the details of it because that's the whole point. That's what I'm really into about life. It's not just the surface, but what's going on energetically in our life. So I had been working at Rolling Stone for 3 years. And I decided I'm tired of being an assistant. I don't want to do this anymore. And I had, like I said, I really wanted to be a comedy writer. I actually got an informational interview with the head writer of Saturday Night Live, and I left that interview knowing there's no way I'm going to be working here. And then I started setting my sights on the Rosie O'Donnell show. I don't know if you're familiar with her. So she had a big talk show at the time. And I was sending writing submissions to the head writer for 10 months with no reply. And I mean, in a FedExing it 1 block from Rolling Stone to NBC where she was, and never got a reply. And so one day on the subway, I just said this prayer. Okay, God, universe, whatever you call it. I believe it's the same thing. Okay, clearly you do not want me to have this job at Saturday Night Live or Rosie O'Donnell. So wherever you want me to go, wherever I can best be of service, every atom, cell, and molecule and my body, mind, soul, and spirit is open to it. Show me what it is, be clear, and I will do it. Shine a big fat spotlight on it so I am very clear that's what I'm supposed to do. And I released that intention, that prayer to the universe. And I swear, Sandy, it was maybe 5 or 6 weeks later, the opportunity with Oprah came in. And I was in a networking group of assistants, and one of those assistants sent an email to 100 of us, and it said, I was just contacted by a recruiter in Chicago. They're in search of chief of staff, executive assistant to a high-profile person in Chicago. Responsibilities include, and they had a long list of things, like the first thing said, coordinate private plane pilots aviation team. The second thing said, coordinate hair and makeup team. And right after that second one, I thought, oh my God, this is Oprah Winfrey, because Jenny Jones and Jerry Springer cannot afford a private plane. And those were 2 talk show hosts in Chicago. So I knew, as I asked in my prayer, my intention, make it clear, I thought, this is Oprah Winfrey, and this is why I did not get the Saturday Night Live or Rosie job. And sure enough, it was her. And after many, many interviews, I ended up getting that job and staying with her for 11 years. So the reason why I like telling, one of the many reasons why I like telling the details of that story is if you're blocked in your career or your life or in your relationship, if you're looking for, you really want this relationship to work and it's not working out, maybe it's time to take some deep breaths, slow exhales and say, okay, clearly this is not working. So wherever I am, whoever I'm meant to be with, whatever healthy partner for both of us, bring us together, or whatever job I'm meant to be doing right now for the greater good of everyone concerned, thank you for leading me there and taking me there. And then you get excited about it. So that's energetically how that happened.
I just love that so much. So that is, the second time I've heard that, probably the first time everybody listening here will have heard it, but both times I've had goosebumps because I do think, and I have said this to you as well, I think there are signs all the time around us about what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. And very typically as human beings, we either ignore them or we don't see them. So opportunities are only opportunities if we see them to be opportunities, right?
I would love to add something on that. You are 100% correct. And I love telling this little piece of the puzzle too. So 6 months before that job opportunity came to me, my mother said to me, Elizabeth, why don't you send your resume to Oprah? This is 6 months before the job came in. Why don't you send your resume to Oprah? You love her show. You love her magazine. Why not just send your resume there? And I said, Mom, first of all, whoever is Oprah's assistant, why in the world would they ever leave that job? And 2, I live in New York. I love, my friends are here. My girlfriend's here. Like, I love my life here. I don't want to move to Chicago. So the opportunity actually came through my mother and I just shut it down. Kind of like this, oh, what do you know? That's crazy. What I found out later when I got the job and got into the job maybe a month in, I asked someone what happened to the person that was here before me. And they had moved on. And they moved on exactly 1 month before my mother said that. So the person moved on who had that role for personal reasons, moved on. They were looking for an assistant. When my mother said that to me, I blew her off. And then the opportunity came back around 6 months later. So again, I like to say that was God or the universe speaking through my mother to me to say, hey, here's a sign, follow this breadcrumb because you'll be really happy if you do. And I blew it off, but it did come back around. And that time I was super clear and super open because when my mother said that, I only had Rosie O'Donnell on my mind. I had a laser focus. I had blinders on for any other opportunities. But at the time it came around the second time, my heart was open, my mind was open, and that's why I could receive it and be open to
which is
going.
It's so incredible, isn't it? But probably, as you say, and it's all of those things. So as soon as you saw that message saying, this high-profile person is looking for an assistant, and you in your head have said, oh, it's Oprah. As soon as you knew it was Oprah, was your first thought your mum? And thinking, she knew, like, how did she know?
I didn't know. My first thought was not my mom, which she would be disappointed to hear.
Sorry,
my first, right. Sorry. My first thought was really like, holy cuss word. This is Oprah Winfrey, and this is exactly why I didn't get those other 2 jobs. This is meant for me. I just felt it. Every atom, cell, and molecule in my body. That's the only way I can describe it. And then I just got super excited. You know, I went from being like, God, I'm just tired of being an assistant. I don't want to do this job anymore. And I'm getting rejected, meaning no one's even replying to. And so I kind of felt like, and I was 34 years old, I was feeling like I'm at this stagnant point in my life. And then within a nanosecond, everything switched around when I knew that it was Oprah. And I texted the woman back who sent the email, or emailed her and said, the only person in the world that I would pick up and move my life for is Oprah Winfrey. And she wrote back, well, maybe you should consider packing your bags. So I knew she confirmed what I thought. And then we rolled out from there.
That's amazing. So tell us what it was like when you first got to meet with Oprah. I mean, I can't begin to imagine what it feels like to walk in to an interview or a meeting with Oprah Winfrey. So tell us what it was like for you.
Yeah. So it was held at a really nice high-end hotel in New York City, and we were meeting in the lounge, the restaurant. And I got there early, and I went to a quiet corner of the lobby, and I sat there and closed my eyes, even though I felt a little awkward, little awkies, just sitting there with my eyes closed. But I thought, I need to get in the zone. And I did my deep breath, slow exhales, and I said, wow, thank you, a prayer, an intention, whatever you want to call it. Wow, thank you for this opportunity. This is incredible that I'm about to meet Oprah Winfrey. And if I am meant to have this job, thank you for making it clear to her and me. And if I am not meant to have this job, thank you for this opportunity. So I really was in a place of gratitude. I really, truly just felt so wildly appreciative and grateful this opportunity came into my life and that I had gotten this far to actually interview with her and meet her. And then I did some deep breathing, and just this prayer popped into my mind, this intention, which was, thank you for flowing through my body and helping me to be calm, cool, confident, and 100% myself. It just kind of popped in like inspiration. And I just said that, did my deep breathing, walked to the restaurant, was taken to the table. And then the president of Harpo came in and introduced himself. He said, hi, I'm Tim Bennett. We talked on the phone last week. Oprah will be down in a few minutes. She's on the line with President Clinton right now. And I said, poker face.
That's nice.
Okay. Oh, the president of the United States. And I'm thinking, oh my. Yeah, and I'm thinking me, Libby Moore, was on academic probation a few times in high school, and just really like, wow. But just all these things started running through my head. Like, this is just an extraordinary moment. I don't want to forget any of it. And then she came in soon after, and as you would expect Oprah to be, was exactly how she was, just warm and generous and gracious. And we sat down, and I remember the 3 of us talked for about 40 minutes. And around that 35 minute mark, she said, so what's your plan? And I said, what do you mean my plan? She said, your plan for your life. And in that moment, I thought, oh my God, I don't have a plan. Do I tell her the truth, or do I tell her what you think you're supposed to tell Oprah in an interview where you really want this job? And I went with the truth. And I said, well, honestly, 5 weeks ago, I thought I was going to be writing. I wanted to write for the Rosie O'Donnell Show. I've been sending writing submissions for 10 months. No one's ever replied. And I said this prayer on the subway. Okay, God, clearly you don't want me to have this job. Whatever I'm supposed to do, every atom, cell, and molecule, my body, mind, soul, and spirit's open to it. Show me what it is, be clear, and I'll do it. And here I am sitting with you having a glass of Chardonnay. So if you leave this interview and you feel like I'm the right person for the job, then I would be honored to take it, because it matches my assisting experience, my 7 years of assisting, with what I'm passionate about. And what I'm passionate about is what you're doing on your show, in your magazine, in your foundation, supporting women and children for the betterment of women and children throughout the world. But if you leave this interview and you feel like she's nice but not the right person for the job, that's okay too, because that just means there's a better chief of staff coming for you, like right around the corner. And if this isn't what God has planned for me, I cannot wait to see what's next. And we just kind of held eye contact for 1001, 1002. And she looked at Tim and said, okay, Tim, let's bring her to Chicago. And that meant, let's bring her to Chicago and go through all these other interviews. And I swear to you, in my heart, I thought, I got this job, because I felt like we made a connection. I was honest with her. She appreciated that honesty. And there was an energy there. And I feel like we both felt it, and went to Chicago and went through grueling interviews, and I got the job. And I moved to Chicago, I think 6 weeks
Incredible.
later. I stayed for 11 years.
Absolutely incredible. And the fact that you stayed for 11 years really says so much about, as you say, about the job that probably felt less like a job and more like a calling, I guess, by that stage. 11 years is a long time for anyone to stay in any position, but you were there right up until the rolling out or the ending of Oprah Show, and that's pretty huge. She lives in the hearts and minds of, I think, every woman, certainly that I know, but around the world she's made such an impact. But during that, you had, I imagine, an incredible opportunity to meet with so many amazing thought leaders, because Oprah was so open to sharing great thought leaders through her mediums. What was that experience like for you?
It's always so hard to answer that question. I mean, I left that job 10 years ago. Well, I think it'll be 10 years in January. It's really difficult to answer that question, because there's so much I could say. It was extraordinary. It was unbelievable. It was life expanding, mind expanding, intellectually, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. My absolute favorite people would be Dr. Maya Angelou, meeting her. I know, just such a great soul, just so much wisdom.
Yeah, like I'm such a huge fan, so incredible.
Yes, and so I really feel blessed to have been able to be by Oprah's side when she was meeting all these people. Now, most of the people on the show I did not meet. So people are like, what's your favorite celebrity? I really do not have a favorite celebrity that I didn't meet a lot of celebrities. I would have had to go down to the studio and introduce myself, and there was just no point in doing that. But I really feel like the people I really wanted to meet, I got to meet, which was Dr. Maya Angelou and Nelson Mandela and this little boy named Matty Stepanek and all these other just extraordinary people along her path, that I was so fortunate to be with her and able to meet some of those people. That's the only way I can describe it. It's just overwhelming, really, truly.
Yeah, wow.
Such a big question.
Yeah, sorry. And it is a huge one. And so I certainly wasn't asking who's your favorite celebrity, because I think that wasn't where my intention was going. But I just think that you got to meet so many, as you say, Dr. Maya Angelou, to meet people who are, yes, through their work they've become, I guess, well-known and celebrity, but really they're huge thought leaders, and that they have changed and expanded the minds of so many other people. Brené Brown would be another one that comes to mind for me, right? But there are so many, and I guess for the rest of the world, I think what Oprah did, and her staff, of which you of course was one of them and by her side, was to bring so many amazing people to the whole world that we may not have ever seen had it not been for the work that she was doing.
She was in 144 countries, syndicated in 144 countries around the world. So she really did bring that many messages and many different people, and expose different people to countries all over the world. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. I always get tongue-tied because I don't know even where to go. There's so many things that come flooding back into my memory.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting, and I think we chatted about this offline previously, but I think it's really interesting when people say, Oprah's doing interviews now, and they say, oh, Oprah's back. And I'm like, was she ever gone? Because I think anyone who's been following her knows that she does so much work for so many different organizations, charities. And she has a magazine, which is huge, and she's involved with so much that I sort of chuckle when people say, oh, Oprah's back, because she happened to be interviewing, Prince Harry. And I'm like, well, where did she go? In my mind, she didn't go anywhere.
Right. And when she ended the Oprah Winfrey Show after 25 years, she was doing Super Soul Sunday on the network, on her network, the Oprah Winfrey Network, which wouldn't be, I don't think that's in any other countries. I think it's only in the
Yeah, but
US.
Super Soul Sundays you can actually stream, which I have done. So you
Oh,
can
that's
find it
true.
through other
Yes.
avenues legally, by the way. Um, but no, you
Yes.
can, though, and it's so lovely because to see those chats with her, sitting down and chatting with people in less of a sort of interview style and more of conversational style is so beautiful.
Yes. And I believe that show is now called Soul Sessions, maybe, or Super Soul Conversations, something like that. And then she also has a show on Apple TV, so the Oprah Conversation. So I think really the Oprah Conversation is an extension of what she did at the Oprah Winfrey Show for 25 years. So those people that are like, oh, Oprah's back, it doesn't even make any sense. But I can understand because maybe she's not in other countries. Um, but yeah, there was such a big thing about that interview, and I thought, but this is what she's done for 25, now going on 35 years. It's what she's done her whole life. There's nothing unusual about that
And
to
I
me.
think she gives such a, or she appears to give such a safe space to people to tell their truth. And that's,
Yes.
I think that's the magic of what she does by just, and I love that you said what you see is what you get. So what we think she is exactly who she is. And
Yes.
that's beautiful.
I would add to that that yes, what you see is what you get. That's exactly who she is, and funnier and smarter and, more generous than you'll ever know. It's more of everything. She's absolutely an extraordinary person. I feel blessed to have been able to work with her. And she's a human being, working on herself every day. I mean, that's why I think people around the world resonate with her so much. They can see themselves
Yeah,
in her.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that she was very honest and open and had such authenticity about her life and the trauma that she had experienced
Yes.
as a child, and for anyone, myself
Yes.
included, who had any traumatic experience as a child, we saw ourselves reflected back and thought, wow, and if Oprah can be okay and find a way to be okay, maybe I can too. And I think that that's such a beautiful gift that she gives the world.
Absolutely. And Sandy, I would say the majority of people, and I mean men and women, specifically women, but men as well, have had trauma in their childhood, some form of trauma. I mean, from birth to 18, the majority. I think they used to say
Yeah,
1 in 4 girls had been,
it
it's
is.
so much higher than that.
Yeah.
So much higher than that. Yeah. That's not a
No, and
realistic
especially now we're
statistic
finding
at
out through the
all.
Me Too
Mm-hmm.
movement, which has been such a beautiful force for women, and for men as well. But for women to be able to speak their truth and say, I have, had this experience, whether it's in childhood, in their school years, whether it's in the workplace, to be able to speak their truth and come out and say, this happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And for it to be a wave then, and a
Yes.
pathway for healing for so many people who previously would never have been able to speak out. Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
agree
And so all
100%.
these beautiful life experiences have brought you to the work that you do now, which is so important. So, you refer to yourself as a life coach, but really it's more than that. So tell us really about, I mean, we know about Love X, but tell us about what your intention is, for your business and for basically the people that you work with and beyond.
Mm-hmm. Well, the whole reason I got into this line of work is it really goes back to when I was, I think, 20 or 21. Um, I knew I was gay my whole life. Let's say at least by 10, 10 or 12. And I grew up in a tiny little town in Maryland in the US, very conservative, Episcopalian. Um, and I didn't know anyone that was gay, but I knew that I was gay. And then you're in like fifth grade, and the biggest I mean, I'm 55 now. So people at the time would say dyke, faggot, lesbo, things like that. And I thought, oh, I kind of know what that means. And that means they're talking about me. And this way that I feel apparently is not okay. So I'll just keep it as a secret. And then as you get older and you understand it more, I just felt like, wow, I will never be able to come out. So from 10 to about 20 or 21, keeping that secret about myself, that I am gay, and keeping that secret and thinking, I'm a bad person. The Bible says I'm a sinner. I shouldn't tell anyone. My family and friends will not love me as a gay person. My friends will think I'm gross. Just all of these messages you get from society at the time. Eventually that wears on you. And these looped thoughts in my head that would run in my head, even on a subconscious level, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not valuable as a gay person, I should be, keep this a secret. Eventually, by 2021, when I was like drinking and eating to numb my feelings in college, just eat, alcohol, numb, blew up, was probably 65 pounds heavier than I am now. I mean, that's like 6.5 dress sizes bigger, just really so numbed out that eventually one night I kind of, tried to end my life in a drunk driving accident where my car ran into a tree. And at the last minute, I slammed on the brakes because it was pouring rain and all this stuff. And I heard this voice that said, "What are you doing?" It was like a loud voice is the only way to describe it. And that kind of snapped me out of this state that I was in, very depressed state. And I slammed on the brakes and my car skid and went over the curb and slammed into a tree. And I totaled my car. I survived. The only reason I survived that night is because when I was pulling away from my friends who were begging me not to drive because I had been drinking too much, but I was saying, no, I'm going to go to this bar and meet, some other friends over there. Pouring rain. And as I pulled away, the DJ said, "Buckle up out there. It's raining cats and dogs, and it's not letting up anytime soon." And just subconsciously, I reached over and buckled my seatbelt. And I was 21. I got my license at 16. I never wore my seatbelt. I never, ever did. But that night, something in me just click. I wasn't thinking I'm going to go kill myself. It was something that kind of crept up on me during this 20-minute drive. Like, oh my God, I'm just so sad and depressed. So my point of saying all that is that I almost ended my life because of these negative, false beliefs about myself in my mind that were on loop on a subconscious level. Now, cut to 34 years old, 14 years later, and I'm Oprah's chief of staff, and I'm having the most extraordinary life. And I came out at 27, by the way. So that's a very important piece of the puzzle. When I was working at Maury Povich, and he did a show on coming out strong, and I came out to my best friend like that weekend and told my friends and family, and like the weight melted off of me over years, and my real life started at 27. And I thought, oh my God, I'm okay. People love me. And then the job with Oprah came at 34. So I understand what can happen when you're in this super positive place about yourself and self-loving and respecting and all of that. And I also understand what it's like to be in this kind of self-hatred, self-loathing, I'm not worthy. I've been on both ends of the spectrum. And so that's why I do the work that I do today, because I want to help people get out of those false beliefs in their head, create more truthful, positive beliefs about themselves, to live a healthier life, to really release themselves from this prison cell in their mind.
Thank you for sharing your journey here and that story in particular, because there are a lot of people out there who are struggling, and there are a lot of people in their life who have had to make decisions about which path am I about to walk down, right? Mental illness is huge and important, and such an important topic that the more people discuss their journeys of getting through that and coming out the other side, the better we all are, I think. And that's the spotlight on that of saying, yeah, you're in this really dark place, but there is hope, is such a beautiful message. As the mother, very proud mama of a gay daughter, I love this story. I am so sad for you that you felt you couldn't come out until 27, and I'm really grateful that my daughter came
Mm-hmm.
out, at
Mm-hmm.
17. And then the only thing that she got grumpy about is that I went, oh, okay, cool. Thanks for telling me, honey. And that I didn't give her, she kind of was waiting for this huge thing and it didn't happen. And so after that, the next night, I bought flowers. Her brothers came for dinner. We had champagne and we made a big deal of it because it's important. And I said, thank you for telling me your
Wow.
truth, because I realized that's why she was upset. For her, it was so huge. For us, it was immediate acceptance. I think I always knew. I think her brothers knew. It was no big deal to us.
Yeah.
But it was a big deal for her. And she had had friends who had come out to their parents and had been rejected and turned away and all of those things. And so this all must play on your mind, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yes, we just loved and
Yeah.
embraced her
Yeah.
and said, thanks so much for sharing your truth, because it's important.
S-
Oh,
Oh my God, Sandy, you win an award for best mom to come out to. Seriously, the fact that you got flowers and had champagne and invited her brothers,
oh.
that is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Honestly, I could cry right now. It's so like, why can't people be like that? And I understand why they can't, why moms and dads,
Yeah.
many of them aren't at that point because they didn't grow up with that. They didn't, but wow, if we could all just take a lesson from you and receiving with an open
Thank you
heart,
for that. You
that
may
is
make
just
me cry
beautiful.
now.
Thank you for that.
um, for me, she's just, this beautiful soul. And I'm just
Yeah.
really grateful to be her mum. And so, and my boys as well, So I think it's, what would have changed from one day to the next in me knowing or not knowing? Absolutely nothing changed. She's still that beautiful human. Nothing changed. And I want her to be happy and I want her to find love and I want her to accept herself fully. And that, which is a personal journey for everybody, right? And something that, as evolved humans, we should all keep evolving and we should all keep trying to love ourselves that little bit more. But it kind of is helpful if you can come out early and go, this is who I am and I'm going to live my life like that. It's important.
Absolutely. And the thing is that, well, especially because at 27, I started dating and I felt like I was 15. So there were so many things I had to learn at 27. And I mean, just about even like just really, really basic things, about choosing people that feel like this is the right person for me, or just like, oh, this person is gay, I'm gay, so I guess I should just date this person. Um, just there's so many things. And what did I want to say about that? My mom, because of course there's people out there listening to your podcast that are going to resonate to this or have a kid that hasn't come out yet and they know, or maybe they think, but how you receive that person, even if it's your best friend or your sister or your brother, whoever it is, coworker coming out to you, how you receive them when they tell you is so important. And you can't change them. No one says like, I want to be born gay. It's a struggle in some cases. Of course, if a magic wand came tonight or God and said, "Oh, you can wake up and be straight and no one will remember you're gay," I would say, "Hell no! I love who I am. I do not want to be straight. Thank you very much. I love who I am. I love my journey." Having said that, and when I told my best friend, she was just amazing. I mean, I just love this person so much. She was so accepting. She was so
Oh,
warm. She was so supportive. She went to the first gay bar I ever went to, where I met my first girlfriend ever. The first girl I ever kissed at this bar. I mean, my best friend took me there, who's straight, and she just along the way has been an incredible support, and that meant everything to me. And for some people, it means like, if you don't have supportive people in your life, there's so many people, not just with gay people, but in particular, I'm thinking of the gay community, where they don't feel accepted by their family or friends and they turn to drugs and alcohol because they just can't deal. The people they love the most aren't supporting them. So thank you again. I
thank
just
you
want
for
to bring that
sharing your
up, for
journey
being
so
so
that I
amazing
could talk about that as well.
oh,
And I had a guest on this show. Her name is Sarah Cunningham. Last year, actually, and Sarah is the founder of Free Mum Hugs in America, which is an organization that seeks to basically, it is what it is. I mean, she started this because she was a Midwest Christian mum who found out her son was gay when he came out, Parker, and she really struggled with this thing that, she'd been told. As you said, she went to church and her whole community was like, this is so wrong. But she loved this boy beyond life itself. And so she went then on a journey herself, a spiritual journey, if you like, to figure out, where do these beliefs come from? Why do I think this? Because I need to help and support and embrace my son. And through her son coming out, she met friends of his and whatever, and she found out that all of these kids, and this is not just America, this happens globally, who are rejected by their parents, who end up on the street or who end up bed hopping at friends' houses because their parents have basically kicked them out. And this happens especially in very religious families, I believe. And so Sarah went to a gay march, a gay rally, or maybe Pride rally, and she held up a sign, and all that she had on it, she wrote this sign herself, and it just said "Free Mum Hugs," because she wanted to give hugs to anyone whose parents weren't giving them a hug. And she was overwhelmed by these people that were coming up to her and getting a hug and crying and telling her their stories. And so she started the organisation Free Mum Hugs, which now I believe is in almost every state across America. There is now a Free Mum Hugs here in Australia. They're not affiliated, but they support one another, which is great, and around the world. And so, I guess I'm going to shout out to Sarah, but also her story is being made into a film, and the rights were bought by Jamie Lee Curtis. And Jamie Lee Curtis is going to play Sarah Cunningham, which makes complete sense because they look so much alike. It's crazy. Yeah. And and as Jamie Lee Curtis has recently, just posted about how proud she is about her child transitioning and being able to speak her truth. All of this makes right. So this is how, as you say, signs and opportunities, and how Sarah and Jamie Lee met and how her story came out. Sarah Cunningham is an extraordinary human, but I just wanted to put her out there. Because of what you're saying, which is the reality is that if you can embrace your child, your friend, your human, whoever that human is who comes to you and says, this is who I am. The one thing I would say from personal experience with my child is, well, what changed? In that minute when she said, I'm gay, what changed about her? Absolutely nothing. Did she grow two heads? Did she turn purple? Did she, nothing. And so they, people are humans. You just got to love them for who they are.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. And it's funny when my mom later told me that she was great when I came out to my mom and dad. They were both very supportive and loving. And later when I told my mom, I told so-and-so that I'm gay, and Jill tells her mother, and her mom says something to you, I just want you to be aware. And she said, Elizabeth, that's our family business. You don't need to be talking about that to anyone. And I said, Mom, I understand why you feel that way, but I am not going to lie about myself or who I'm dating. I'm not going to come home and say I'm dating Tom when I'm dating, Tiffany. Like, I'm just not going to do that. And so I understand that you need time to mourn the loss of who you thought and what you thought my life would be, and take all the time you need, and let's learn about this together. Like, I'm learning myself too. I've known this since I was a kid, and I was just terrified to come out. So I'm learning about this as well. If you see something on the news or in media, read about it. Let's talk about it and learn together. But I'm not going to lie about who I am. And she understood. And she did tell me later she cried for 6 months every night. But I understood. She had to mourn this whole idea, this dream she had for me. And now, later she has said many times, Elizabeth, you have no idea how much I love you, how much you coming out, I would not want you any other way. You've expanded my life, my mind in so many ways. You've made me a better person, and I appreciate you for that. So it's a complete 180. Yeah.
And I agree with you. Like, for me, it was easy, but for other people in my daughter's life, not so much. And again, and I had to sort of say to her, you should never, ever be embarrassed or ashamed of who you are. Who you are is exceptional. You're perfect just the way you are, right? That's how you were made. That's how you were born. That's who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to understand that some people are going to find this difficult and that they will mourn, as you say, and they were my words exactly. They will want to mourn this idea of you, who they thought you were. And I do think for a lot of people, it comes from a place of love that they perceive that people who are gay are going to have a much harder life. And in some places and in some communities, that's absolutely true, so that's a real fear, right?
True. Absolutely.
But I think, and I'm very lucky to live in Melbourne, which is really progressive. And, so I suppose for me, that didn't necessarily enter, although I recognise that there are people out there who are incredibly biased and sometimes bigoted. But I think that, coming back to that, you're right. I think you do have to understand that for some people it's difficult they just have to get through the idea of it and understand it. But the great part about all of that is it does open up conversations about a lot of things. I'm learning so much from my daughter.
Yes. Yes. And I would say it's interesting that we took this turn and kind of did a deep dive into this topic in our conversation. And to me, that just means that there are people, and I don't just mean one. I mean, there are people out there that need to hear this conversation right now, exactly what we're saying, from my perspective as the person who's gay, from your perspective as the mom of a gay child. So we are sending you lots of love. To people listening out there, I just want you to know there's lots of support, lots of love for you. And also I want to say it's just, the whole coming out thing is not even just about being gay. It's people who are going through a hard time in their relationship right now because of COVID, and they're in an abusive relationship and they're stuck at home with their partner and they feel like they can't tell anyone and they need to come out to somebody, a friend, someone that they can trust to say, I need to share what is really going down in my home right now. So this whole idea of coming out, has so many layers to it. This is just one little tiny aspect about coming out as gay. It's, if you need to come out that you were sexually abused as a kid, or you have bipolar or mental illness with yourself or your partner or your family, there's so many things. And finding the person that you can trust to come out with that information to is the first step in healing, the first step towards a self-loving act to do that.
Yes,
to share
yes. And
so
as often happens on my little podcast, is that it does, it's conversational and it details where it's meant to go. And I always say that. That's why I love that it's conversational.
Yes.
But also I just want to say, and you're right, to everyone who's listening, that I will put up notes, in our show notes as well. If you feel you can't talk to someone in your life, like a family member or a friend, or there is always help. There is always, help out there where you could ring someone, I'll put up links to helplines, basically is what I'm saying. I will also put up links to free mum hugs, both in Australia and the US. And I'm not sure in Canada if there is a free mum hugs, but I'm going to look into that and find out if there's a chapter over in Canada as well. But we'll put up the links to all of that because, as you say, it's important. And I do believe that when these conversations come up, it's because, as you say, there are people out there who just need to hear this right now. And whether you're going through a difficult time or your child's going through a difficult time, whatever that may be, or your friend. And the other thing, too, to remember is if you strongly suspect that your friend or someone in your life is going through a really difficult time and really struggling, or you feel something is not going okay in their life, as in we're talking about domestic abuse, mental illness, whatever it may be, just having a hard time, it's actually okay to reach out to them too and say, hey, I'm just checking in, I'm just thinking about you. And especially during these really tough times during the pandemic, that's important.
So important. Actually, a really good friend of mine and I just connected on Saturday, and we had that exact same talk. Like, why haven't we reached out to each other? And we apologized to each other because she had gone through a difficult time with something, and so had I, and neither of us reached out to each other. So we reconnected, we apologized to each other and made a pact that we wouldn't do that again. Because when things are going down in my life, I tend to retreat. I don't go out and call people, and I just go in, and she does the same thing. So that's a really important conversation. I thought we both felt so much better after we had that conversation.
It's so great, isn't it? Sometimes I have a really gorgeous group of girls that I grew up with, believe it or not. There's like 11 of us, and we have a group chat, just on Messenger, which is great. And especially because in Melbourne, as I was trying to explain to you, we're in our 6th heavy lockdown here, and our restrictions are really intense. So we're not getting to see loved ones, friends, family, which is at times quite difficult. And especially for people living alone, it's a really tough gig, right, to not be able to go out and see anybody. So we have this group chat, and in it, one of our girls said, I'm just having a really shit day today. It's crap. I'm just like, I'm really upset, and I don't even know why. Which was kind of like a great thing, because A, we could all reach out to her, but B, I had had a terrible day and I had just been crying for no reason. And I'm like, is this just menopause? Is this just all of it, right? Or this is lockdown? But I think it's all of it. But it gave me then permission to say, I'm so glad you said that, because I'm having a really terrible day as well, and I've been crying. And then we got on the phone and we talked to each other, and it was fantastic. And but just the love and support in the group chat of everyone reaching out, going, girls, just hang in there and we're here for you. And that kind of thing, it seems so small, but it's really important.
Truly, that we are the essential workers in each other's
lives.
Oh, I love
that. I love that. You bring such light and love, into everything you do. It was really, some people won't understand this, but we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, prior to this, just to catch up and say hi. And I felt at that time, and I said it almost felt like I was talking to an old friend, like we had known each other for a very long time. And there was that, as you say, that kind of energy that was going back and forth was amazing. It's such an amazing thing that you were able to do that. And through your work, that struck me. I've never heard someone say, I want to bring love back into the workforce, and love and compassion back into a corporate space, because that in some ways is so missing, in those spaces. And that you've been working with some pretty extraordinary companies who have taken that on board as a priority. And I think that's extraordinary.
It is, and it's essential. Talk about essential. That word keeps popping up. It is essential right now, especially where we are in the world, and social media and online stuff and news and fake news and false news and real news, and just trying to really figure out what is going on. So a lot of people were thinking like, love, that sounds weird. Number one, Hollywood has really misconstrued the word love. So people, they think love meaning romantic love. Oh my God, that involves some kind of sexual behavior. It's so crazy that the word love has this so much surrounding it, when it's about, again, gentleness, kindness, compassion, generosity, help, lending a helping hand, listening to people, open hearts. There's just so many layers of it. And bringing the energy of love back into business means, number one, you aligning with yourself, your higher self. We all have a higher self and a lower self. We make good decisions and bad decisions. We can be amazing and loving, and we can be really crotchety. You know what I mean? Like, just like crabby is probably a better word. Or be super open or super manipulative. So anyway, to me, the basics of this work is helping people, number one, get out of their head and into their heart, or into their higher self. And that's through the breath. Deep breath in, hold it for a few seconds at the top, very, very slow, long exhale. Deep breath in, long, slow exhale, 3 in a row. Once you do that, you're clearing your mind, you're in alignment with your higher vibration, higher self, and in that clean, clear place, the thing to do next, or the thing to say, or the ideas and the inspiration pops in, and it's got a clean slate to pop in on, so you're very clear. So when we were talking earlier, all these ideas started popping into my head. Well, why don't you try this? Or have you ever thought about doing that? Because I was in that clean, clear space. if I had an agenda with you, if I was trying to get something from you, or all that kind of stuff. It's very heady and kind of, it's all swirling around your head. Like, I want to get this from her. But I don't like being in that place. I've learned that being in this clean, clear, higher vibration is so much more exciting and powerful, and you align with that other person's higher self. So to me, it's the most exciting thing to talk about. And we're all human beings, so we default back to what we've been taught or what was modeled behavior in our childhood, and we go to our mind and think, oh, what's the answer? And it's about just taking deep breaths, slow exhales, and getting into the habit of realigning with your higher self, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, energy, atom cells, molecules, and see what pops in. It's absolutely extraordinary. That's the energy of love. That's higher thinking, higher vibration, higher opportunities.
I love it. I love, because when you say you're so passionate about it, but it all makes complete and utter sense. Someone asked me recently, another podcaster actually said to me, do you write down questions? Do you have like interview questions in mind? Do you whatever? And I say, no, I find out about the person, of course, because I find that that's about respect and right. And of course, I want to help them get their message out into the world as well. But I don't have set questions, and I just basically, I write notes. Like, so I've been writing little notes as you say things. I think, wow, that's so incredible. But I don't. I walk in and kind of go, right, okay, let's start talking about this, and then let's see what happens. And I think the most beautiful part about that, as well, as it allows people to be open, and it allows people to share what they share, without agenda.
Yes. We've heard the term flow. A lot of people use that term, where you're in flow. This conversation is in flow. We're speaking heart to heart, energy to energy. And my good friend Kelly Wolf, who is also a coach, she has something called flow. Her method is flow, finding love over worry. That. Her last name is Wolf, which also happens to be flow spelled backwards. So yeah. That's flow. That's being when you're energetically aligned with someone, and you're just speaking heart to heart, energy to energy.
I love that. And I love that, she's broken down what flow means.
Real.
So I could talk to you for about 700 hours, I'm convinced, because I just adore you. I think that what you're doing is so real and so positive for the world. And it's such an incredible thing that you are doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I enjoy it. And I don't know where it will go. We'll see. I mean, my meditation every day is thank you for using me, flowing through me for the greater good. And sometimes I'm in a really great flow, and sometimes I'm not, I mean, ask my partner, right? I mean, we're all human beings. I love that quote. It's something like, if you think you're spiritual, go spend a week with your family. We're all human beings just trying to do the best that we can do. There's no finish line. And I do know that right now I'm doing what I love to do, helping people learn to love themselves as I continue to learn to love myself deeper. There is no finish line.
And I think anyone who thinks that they've gotten to that finish line, please. It's such a journey, isn't it? And I feel like every day, like, it's funny. I think at 51, 50, I started the podcast. At 51, I launched a magazine, and people were like, what the hell are you doing? You're 51. Why bother now? But it really was that, you say you find kind of purpose. And as you say, I don't know where it's going. I really don't know where it's going. But what I do know is that my intent was to really help other women to rise and to get their stories out there and to have women heard. And so that's a beautiful thing. And if it lasts 5 minutes or it lasts, turns into something huge, that's okay too, because I'm just really grateful for the journey, and it's my passion and my joy, right?
I love that, Sandy. That is 100% correct. And do I have a minute?
We do.
Continue?
We do. We can keep going.
Okay. I wanted to say I admire you for launching that at the time that you launched it, because Yeah, I love that you launched it at 51 because, and I was listening to some of your interviews prior to this, and there was a woman from Atlanta
Oh,
that you were
Quavi.
interviewing
Yeah.
recently. Yes, yeah. And I thought, this is such an opportunity for women right now because just we've been fed this narrative or this story that men get to work until X age and then they basically retire and play golf. That's kind of the general idea, where they retire and buy like a yellow Corvette or a yellow sports car or something and, date someone who's 20. I mean, and then women, you stop working at a certain age and that's it. There's no like rainbow. It's just been this old tired story that we've all bought into and it's not real and it never was real. Just like my old story of people won't love me because I'm gay. So what I realize and what women around the world are realizing right now is, oh my God, there is so much opportunity for me right now. And it all depends on what you think. If you buy that old narrative and you think, oh, I'm over 45 or 50 or 55 or 60 or whatever it is, ... my career is over, I can't do any, that is crap. But if you believe that, that's exactly what it will be for you. If you start getting excited about what could be the possibilities for my life right now, that's when the ideas start coming to you. So even for people listening, you can start with the deep breath, slow exhales and say, thank you for showing me where can I be used for the greater good. Thank you for showing me, take my hand, lead me there, make it clear, send me a big fat spotlight, just like I asked and Oprah popped in. So that's why I love talking about these stories because if it happened to me, it can happen to you. There's no difference between us. Doesn't matter if I'm in Canada, the US, Australia, Africa, does not matter. It's about where is your mindset and opening up to possibilities. And I'm not saying you just do it once and all of a sudden magic happens. For some people it does. But the repetition of that sends out an energy through this electromagnetic field that we live in and goes out looking for and searching for a matching and equal signal or opportunity to bring back to you. So if you're thinking my life's over, I'm done, that's kind of what you're going to get back. And if you start getting excited about other opportunities and what you might do next and you can collaborate with and what makes you feel alive and vibrant, that ripples out there looking for matching an equal opportunity to bring back to you. That's how it works in a really simple, simplistic
I love that.
way.
See, goosebumps. Hairs on the back of my neck just stood up. That's my signal for that mind-blowing, right? And it's important. Oh my gosh. Yes. And you know what's really fascinating? You're going to love this. So before Jules Brooke had introduced us, this is really funny because I believe in vision boards. And I believe, for me personally, especially when I started all of this, was that I kind of really didn't know where it was going to go, but I really knew what my why was. I knew what my intention was. I knew that it was really not about me, but it was about other women. And on my vision board, I had put up a lot of things, but I had put up 2 people that kind of have inspired me in my life. And one of them was Oprah, and one of them was Ellen DeGeneres, which is really fascinating. Anyway, I put it up on my board and whatever, and I'm just like, yep, whatever. Not yet, whatever. I really kind of was like, I really admire what they're doing and what they have done for the world and why it's so important, etc. And after I put that up on my vision board, I'm not kidding, it was about a week later when Jules Brooke said, I'm going to introduce you to Libby Moore. And, and here you are talking about your experiences with Oprah and what you're doing and what you're putting out into the world. And so for me, that's what I'm saying. Signs are only signs if you see them, right?
That's right. I love that story. So you're one breadcrumb closer. Who knows what could happen next?
Who knows? And it wasn't necessarily that I put it on the board to say, oh, I really want to meet Oprah. Although, yes, of course, that would be amazing. But that's not why I put her on the board. I put her on the board because she really inspires me to be a better person, to get the stories of women out into the world. That's why I had her on the board. So it wasn't really, oh, I need to meet Oprah, and it wasn't even about that. It really was about being grateful to her and other women like her for doing what they've done, putting it out in the world. And then there you are. So in actually doing that, I feel like, yes, because I was meant to meet Libby Moore.
Well, Thank you, Jules, and thank you, Oprah. Really, right? Because I wouldn't be here without either of those two people. So
Yeah.
very grateful.
It's really lovely. So I guess, the best way, I suppose, to wind this up is to say that you're extraordinary. I am so grateful that you've come on this podcast and been so generous of your time and of your spirit and for sharing your incredible story. Thank you for your honesty and integrity, for sharing that and for bringing more love to the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandy. I love our conversations. I appreciate you inviting me on this platform. And yeah, let's send out more big love waves, big love ripples throughout the world. And everyone listening, we love you.
We do. We really do love you. And as I said, I'm going to put up all the information in the show notes where people can find you, Libby, where they can follow you and your journey, but also where they can seek help if they need it, and free mum hugs, etc., because that's really important. And I'm just so grateful that I have had an opportunity to meet you. This will obviously, I love our conversations as well, so I'm sure this won't be the last one, but just love having you on, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is brought to you by WB40, Women Beyond 40 magazine. Available now at WB40.com. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to quality podcasts. We're also now available on YouTube. We chat with really interesting women about their hard-won wisdom, but it really helps us if you can subscribe, like, and share the podcast. Thanks so much for your support. Bye for now.